Rabbis of yesteryear now. Today I want to speak about a famous rabbi from Algeria of his time. His name was Rabbi Samchon Halva. Zecher Tzadik Lebracha, great rabbi of his time. I believe he was born in the year 1835. I think he passed away around the time period of the year, right at the start of the 20th century, in the year 1900. It was reported over. Now, the Hayami website was going to list him, his Hilul on Zain Adar. That is because I think that it's not so clear on the exact date that he passed away, and they mention him on Nadar. The reason is they say Kol HaNeshama Chachmei Yisrael Kololot Moshe Rabbeinu, because Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, passed away on that specific date. So the Haimi website will commemorate on Zayin Adar various other rabbis that they can't actually trace over, let's just say, the date of their Hilula. So he was born in Heitav Kuf Pei Hey, 1835. He passed away in the year 1900. That was in Heitav Reish Samach. He would go on to become a great posek halacha in Oran, in Algeria, a place we've spoken about on various occasions before. And he parsem bechiburo tzab letzav, osik b'nyanei Musar. He would write various different ethical teachings on Musar in of its own right over here. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, it's interesting. He would become a rabbi in, let's just say, a prominent rabbi in Algiers, but he would actually start his career. He was born in Meknes, in Morocco, and I believe his father's name was Rabbi Shlomo Halva. So very, very interesting. So I think we did speak about various rabbis from this specific rabbinic family in of its own right. So that's something I will definitely have to point out over here from the outset. So very interesting, and it's always good to speak about Algerian, Moroccan rabbis in of its own right. We've already spoken about many rabbis that would come from Morocco in of its day, so that's something that I'll have to very much point out over here, friends. So anyone, if you're tuning in at the moment and it's the first time you're here, welcome to our community as we're exploring a few of the highlights of a great rabbi's life over here from Algeria. Now, Shlomo Halva, I think that there's who happens to be his father. I couldn't really get so much information on in of itself, but there is a Rabbi Shlomo Halva that lives nowadays, or Hiliba, that I think happens to be a Rosh Yeshiva. But to find out information about his father, I haven't got much information on hand. I have to point out over here. But he happens to have been a rabbi. His father was. B'tzirato asak b'atakat katvei yad hakulim derush. He would actually write various different things on Kabbalah, on Piyutim. Remember, it was very popular poetry at that stage in time over there, and on Kabbalah and various different drushim in of itself. I think come with the Heitav Reish Gimel, he would write a writing in of itself called the Poel Yeshuot, which would deal with various different perushim on poetry and Hoshanot, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very interesting in of itself. So Hagir to le'oran, let's speak about that. I think it was come with the Heitav Reish Dalet. Nadad le'oran, he would actually travel very much around Oran. Ekebt sarot shonot shebkado oto b'meknes. דומה, כי בשנותיו הראשונות בעיר קליטתו הייתה קשה, והוא סבל מחסור. באורן נשא אישה והוליד בנים ובנות. So he'd get married in Oran over there and would have sons and daughters. And Rabbi Samchon, I think at that point in time, it's just stating over here, just a chronicle over. We're just talking about his time period in Oran. He would, it states over here, סירב לקבל משרה רבנית, משום שרצה להתפרנס מיגיע כפיו. So seemingly he was offered payment for his workings and stuff like that, but he would prefer to earn a specific living. ושם הוכר כאחד מרבני העיר. He would become one of the, let's say, most famous rabbis in the city. ופוסקי הלכה בה. He would become פוסק הלכה, rendering different Jewish laws. התכתב בענייני הלכה עם הרב Abram Enkabe ve'im Harab Yosef ben Walid. So he would actually be working along in regards to, in the rabbinic sphere in itself, two great rabbis, Abram Enkabe and Rabbi Yosef ben Walid. Let's speak about both of those great rabbis in his own right. Who was Rabbi Abram Enkabe? He's a rabbi that we've spoken about over here inside this series on various occasions before. He lived in between the years 1807 to 1891. He was once again a darshan. He was also an outstanding posek halacha. He was a rabbi of Al-Maskhar in Algeria, especially in the 19th century, and was an author of great books called the Motsi L'Or. He was actually born in the year 1807 in the city of Sela in Morocco. Itself, I think his father's name was Rab Mordechai in Kaba, if I'm not mistaken. He was appointed, if I'm not mistaken, to various different positions. He was appointed a president of the Kihila, of the congregation of that city. Echad Ma'avotav, who Rabbi Ephraim Enkabeh. So he was actually a descendant of the famous Rabbi Ephraim Enkabeh. Shenes Mesfard Bikvot Gezerot Kufnon Aleph, at time period of 1391. V'yesheb b'tzvon Africa. We have to just point out about him. Echad Mekrovei Mishpachto, who Rabbi Raphael Enkabeh. Apparently, Rabbi Avram Enkabeh was closely related to Rabbi Raphael Enkabeh, who was another famous rabbi of his time, and let's just say one of the most important rabbis in Morocco of that specific day. And much has been said within regards to him. I think he had a chief rabbinate role also in Morocco. We have to point out Rabbi Raphael Enkabeh did. Now, what's interesting, Rabbi Avram Enkabeh, he would learn in yeshiva of Rabbi Raphael Bibas in Sela, and was appointed a judge over there inside the city, and was also a posek, if I'm not mistaken. כמו כן, יהווה כתובת להתייעצות בענייני הלכה עבור רבנים שונים, כדוגמת רבי סמכון חלבה. So as we said before, he was very much close to the rabbi we're speaking about today, Rabbi Samchon Halva. I think it was in the year 1838, Rabbi Avram Enkabeh, if I'm not mistaken, would actually travel to Livorno, more the southern part of Italy, כדי להביא לתפוס כמה מספריו הראשונים, within regards to printing works. By him, Zochol Avram, one of them was a famous book, the Zochol Avram, which is printed, I think, in Livorno in the 1839, which is on the dinim, let's say, the laws of Treifut. ייתכן כשחלק ממסע זה ביקר בארץ ישראל, שם יצא לאור ספרו חקת הפסח, that was in Yerushalayim in the year תר"ג, על הגדה של פסח, כנראה לא שהה שם זמן רב, בכתב הביא פעמים רבות שאיפו לעלות להתיישב בארץ ישראל. לאחר חזרתו לצפון אפריקה, נסע בין ערים, so he would actually travel very much all over northern Africa, should not from Morocco, ומערב אלג'יר, he would actually go to Algeria. ואסף ספרים כתב יד, ששימשו לו כמקורות נוספים, לבותיו הלכותיות. I think come the year 1850, Rav Enkabeh, if I'm not mistaken, he would go to Tlemasa and would actually return at that point in time, and I think he had a connection with the Sultan in of its own right. He would actually go to Tlemcen, he would learn Torah with various different Torah students at that point in time, and was one of the outstanding rabbis of that city. I think he was closely connected to Rabbi Chaim Balayach, another great rabbi he's talking about, Harab Natan Asayag, Harab Masud ben Yatzo, Harab Masud ben Soson, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he would eventually go to Mascara, if I'm not mistaken. And you can see how well-traveled he was. I think it was in the year 1858, he would print in Livorno this book called the Zvachim Shlamim, which was on the Rambam in of its own right, on the various different laws of Shrita and B'dika, investigation. And very, very interesting. So I think he was close to Rabbi Moshe Sabon with his writings. He happened to be from Oran. I think in 1869 himself, he would actually bring back his book called the Kerem Chameh. This was in Livorno, in 2 different volumes that was. And very, very interesting. And much can be said within regards to them. He would actually write down the writings from those different places from the 15th to 18th century, if I'm not mistaken. And וכן קיצור התקנות מאת רב רפאל בורדוגו ואת פירושו של בנו רבי מימון להם. דרשותיו של רב אנקבא נאספו לספר מלא לאברהם, I think in the year 1875. And there was also another writing called the Chama Dat Va'atik in Livorno in the year Tafresh Tet, or Srot HaChaim in Livorno in Tafresh Dalet, Limudei Hashem in Livorno in Tafresh Chet. And part of his book, inside his book, a siddur called the Tfilat Kol Peh, הכולל לקט על הלכות מוסר, בתוספת כמה מספריו הקטנים של החידה וספרים נוספים. הגדול של פסח, חוקת הפסח, if I'm mistaken, this was in Livorno in its own right, Chiyot Chimda in Livorno in Tafrei Shud Bet, and various other works on the Siddurim, especially for prayers for during the weeks, also for the Shabbat, the Moadim, various different festivals in its own right, and very, very interesting. He wrote many, many different books. We're just speaking about Rabbi Avram Enkava, who would very much work with Rabbi Samchon Halva over there. Another rabbi he would work with is someone named Rabbi Yosef ben Walid. Very interesting enough. So who was Rabbi Yosef ben Walid? He lived between 1830 to 1906. He was a famous posek halacha, outstanding dayan, let's just say, of the city of Oran in Algeria, and especially in the 19th and 20th century. He was actually himself born in Tetuan, if I'm not mistaken. His father was another famous rabbi. His father was a famous rabbi, Rabbi Yitzhak ben Walid. I think it was his Hilula, Rabbi ben Walid's Hilula, just yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check on that. He was a rabbi of the city. He actually got married to Rabbanit Rika, who was the daughter of Rabbi Baruch Lasri, if I'm not mistaken. And very, very interesting. He would learn under auspices of Rav Yitzhak ben Walid, his father, and Rav Shmuel bar Jilan, if I'm not mistaken. And I think so he would actually be a traveler very much in Torah sphere around Oran. He would learn in Yeshivat V'zot Liyudah, if I'm not mistaken. And that was actually funded, let's just say, through a famous philanthropist, someone named Rabbi Yehuda Hassan, if I'm not mistaken. I think in the year Heita Fresh Summer, he would actually learn in Chavruta together with Rabbi David HaKohen Skali, another famous rabbi of his time. And I think he would actually, a lot of these great rabbis would refuse to earn money through the rabbinate in of its own right. And I think he would actually work as a merchant, and he would partner up with various different workings, let's just say, inside the city. And once again, he was very close to other great rabbis. Rabbi Avram Enkava, we're talking over here today about Rabbi Samchon Halva, and Rabbi Mordechai ben Jo, another famous rabbi that we've spoken about here on this series. He happened to have been the head of Jewish court and a rabbi of Tangier, if I'm not mistaken. Now, what books did Rabbi Yosef ben Walid write? Remember, we did record a video about him. Yisilula is on the 2nd of Tammuz. He would writes various different teachings on the Torah, or on the Talmud, on the Piskei Halacha, and on the Code of Jewish Law also, we have to point out. And I think various different writings, even after he passed away, I think would be actually printed. I think, especially under auspices of another famous rabbi, Rabbi Yitzhak Ashkenazi, who was a famous Shluchei D'Rabbanan in Jerusalem, and Chaveh Va'idat Sfardit in Jerusalem. And בכדי להוציאם לדפוס, רבי יצחק ריכז וסידר את כתביו לספר אחד וקרא שמו יוסף. הספר זכה להסכמות מרבני ארץ ישראל בצפון. Get various different, let's say, הסכמות from great rabbis that happen to be situated also in North Africa, also, so right. הספר נתפס במהדורה השנייה על ידי הרב שלמה דיין, ופעם שלישית במהדורה חלקית על ידי איחוד יהודי טטואן. So he was a very, very great rabbi at that point in time, and he was a Talmid of Rav Shmuel bar Gilon and Yitzchak ben Walid also. So we're speaking about Rav Yosef ben Walid, and much has been pointed out within regards to him. But everyone over here, we are speaking about a famous rabbi today in the series, Rabbi Samchon Halva, and the Haimi website will mark his Hilula of this specific date in of itself. Now we're going to speak more about what he's done in a few minutes, about his let's just speak about it now. פעילותו הרבנית, מפסיקותיו ההלכתיות. רוב פסיקותיו לא השתמרו. יודעים ממנו שני פסקים בלבד, so we know two פסקים. הראשון, חיזק את מנהג קיפול הטלית בשבת, in regards to שבת and טלית, לא שינוי בסדר הקיפול, והגן עליו מפני המערערים עליו. והשני, the second one, שנמנע עם הרבנים הראשונים, שהתירו להדליק אש מגפרורים ביום טוב, אף לכתחילה. נימוקיו הם שהאש מצויה היא קבע בגפרור, ואין זה דומה להוצאת אש מעצים או מאבנים. שאסרה המשנה, שמכיוון שהאש יוצאת במהירות מהגפרור, היא נחשבת למצויה. כמו כן, עדיף להוציא אש מגפרור, ולא מגחלת מועמט, משום שיש למעט בצריכה ביום טוב. למסקנתו ההלכתית, הסכים הרב Avram Enkava. Very, very interesting. Now, we're going to talk about more of his shitot in of its own right. We're going to come back in a minute. We're going to take a short 1 minute break. So if you're new over here to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back in 1 minute, friends, over here and continue this great class within regards to this famous rabbi. So please subscribe in the meantime. And we'll be back in a minute, friends. Hi, shalom everyone. Thanks for being patient over here as we're exploring a few highlights of the great Rabbi's life who we happen to be speaking about today. So welcome everyone if you are new here to our channel, and let's explore Hishitato HaChinochiyit B'Sifrot Sablatav Hitayapav Rabbi Samchon B'Chut Musariyot Tviyot כדוגמאות, חובת הנאמנות והיושרה לכל אדם, גם לבני עמים זרים, כמו כן ביאר שיש להודות על האמת, in regards speaking the truth, שמטרת לימוד נודעה להבין ולא להתנצח. It's one thing that's sourced down a bit. כמו כן, הוא מרבה להתמודד עם ההתרבות צרפתית ולהתייחס לתופעות שונות שהחלו בעת חדשה. ושפטן על היהודים כגון תופעות גילוח הזקן בשינוי שמות עבריים לשמות צרפתיים ועוד. So this is one of the teachings that one of his opinions here. But let's explore some of his writings, some of his books over here today. Include the monkey's works, includes the tablets of Sefesh Ktav, Ketzava, Lebanav, Binyane Mosar, with regards to the realms of Musar of its own right. Metarat HaSefer Hita Ladrich Et Beno B'Avodot Hashem. הספר הושלם על ידי בשנת התרמ"ה בצוותו, ביקש מבניו להדפיס את הספר בהקדם האפשרי. הספר יצא לאור במהדורה ראשונה בשנת התרס"ד ומהדורה שנייה בשנת התשע"ז על ידי הרב פרופסור משה עמאר. It's very interesting. Now we've spoken about Rabbi Professor Moshe Amar over here inside this series on various occasions before. He's actually a professor. He was born in the year 1946. He was he's just someone that's we've mentioned about on various occasions before. He actually happens to be Moroccan and made Aliyah to Israel in the year 1963, and would take on various important positions. I think he'd get a doctorate from the Bar Ilan University in philosophy, also in Talmud. He would learn in its own right, and has won various, let's just say, prizes in of its own rights. And something that very much, including the Rav Yitzhak Herzog Prize in of itself, so something that we have to point out. Okay. Another one of his books, Hashgot v'chidushim lesefer b'nei Reuven. This one, Rabbi Maimon Abbo, if I'm not mistaken, and Rabbi Yosef ben Naim. Haktav Yad haya b'reshut Rabbi Yosef ben Naim. Remember, Rabbi Yosef ben Naim happens to have been a famous sofer, an investigator, bibliographer of Morocco, and I think had the Malchei Rabbanan book, which is very, very famous, and various other books also. The Mei Meriva, which Shelot and Shuvot, question and answers, Le'et Ata Katavayad Mugudar Ka'avod. Then there was another book there called the Chachmat Chachmin. ככל הנראה מערכת הלכתיות לפי סדר האלף-בית. This was done through the order of alphabet. גם כתב יד, זה מוגדר כעבוד. Another book was the חכמת ודעת, הוצאת חברת אהבת שלום. This actually come out through the חברת אהבת שלום. יחסו את ספר לרבי סמחון. אולם יש חקרים שחלקו עליהם. Another great book is the חידושים על הש"ס, על פי עדותו של רבי יוסף משאש over there, which is very interesting, and various different books of its time. So you can see the bibliography, and you can see what a great rabbi he was. He was one of the famous rabbis of Algeria in of his time. He was part of a cluster, let's say, of great rabbis that would actually come. He was obviously from a rabbi in Oran. Other great rabbis, just to point out for a minute, from Oran include Rabbi Yaakov Sospartas, Rabbi Natan Jian, Rabbi Chaim Katzbi, Rabbi Faruz Karsiniti, Rabbi Avram Ankaber, who was speaking about today, Rabbi Samchon Halva, who was speaking also about today, Rabbi Yos ben Walid, Rabbi Chaim Belayich, Rabbi David Kohen Skali, another very famous rabbi, Rabbi Yosef Mashash, Rabbi Masuta Kohen Parki Kohuna, Rabbi David Ashkenazi, another rabbi we quoted today, Rabbi Yitzchak El Maliach from Tlemcen, if I'm not mistaken, another rabbi we quoted today, Rabbi Yechia Amsalem, another famous rabbi, and a Dayan he was, in, Rabbi David Ibn Khalifa. Very, very interesting. So, these are really, really great rabbis of its time, and many of them we've spoken about before. Anyone tuning in live, we're exploring a few highlights of the life of a rabbi that was very famous in Algeria in of his day, and someone I think we've spoken about on various occasions before. I really do hope we will record a video with regards to Rabbi Yechia Amsalem at a later stage. That's something I would definitely want to stress over here inside this series. That will be very, very, I think, important and exciting. And we did record about some Algerian rabbis quite recently here inside this series. So yeah, so we happen to be speaking about famous rabbi of his time, Rabbi Samchon Halva, and the Haimi website, as I said before, will actually mark his Hilula on this specific day of Zayin Ba'adar because of Moshe Rabbeinu, but I think we're not 100% sure on the exact date when the famous rabbi had passed away. So that's something that I have to stress over. The Haimi website will actually commemorate him and write about him over here. So we're just going to explore a bit within regards to his life, what's actually written over there also. So that's, I think, very important to point out over here. So, yeah, we're going to explore a bit within regards to him now. So, for anyone tuning in live, please subscribe to the channel if you are new here and join our community. As yeah, very exciting. We've got a lot of fantastic content over here, and really going from strength to strength at the moment. We also record videos at the moment. Current series that we're doing is an exciting project on exploring the various different countries all across the world, the great rabbinic communities that happen to have been of yesteryear, and we're speaking about various countries all over the world. We've spoken about as many as about 45 countries already, which is absolutely staggering. And we're trying to get science behind what actually occurred in all different places, and yeah, and so on and so forth. So that is very, very interesting over here to point out. Okay, so let's explore a few more highlights within regards to him, and yeah, then I think we will call it a night. So Rabbi Halva, I believe, to pronounce his name correctly. Just to recap within regards to him, he was born, his father was Rav Shlomo. He was born in 1834 in Meknes, in Morocco, and he would move to Oran in Algeria, and there he would become really close to great rabbis. He was known for his chassidut, let's just say, his fantastic sharpness in pasking halachot and returning questions, let's just say, and many, I think some of his writings and shuvot was actually written in the Kemech Hama, as we've written before, connected to Rabbi Avram and Kaver. And he passed away in the year 1900. And he was known for his great Mosar works, which is, I think, a lot of it was published after he passed away. The Tzab, as mentioned before, that was actually published in Jerusalem in the year 1904. And the Sefer Chachmat V'De'at was published in Jerusalem, I think, in 2003. And also with בשלו זקן המקובלים, חכם יצחק כדורי, שכתב היד נשמע אצלו. It's a very, very interesting. Famous Rabbi Yitzchak Kaduri also would be very much connected to him, and he's no stranger over here. We've spoken about him in depth before, Rabbi Yitzchak Kaduri and many of the great rabbis of yesteryear here on our community. So that's something that I very much have to point out over here. So that's very, very interesting. We're going to explore a few of the highlights from his book. I think that's very important. Also to to look at about that also. So it's that I do see that there was someone of the name Rabbi Abraham Halva. I'm not too sure if he was related or not. Seemingly it was the same name. He was actually born in Jerusalem himself and would learn under auspices of great rabbis in Jerusalem. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a famous Rabbi Shimon ben Sion Halva also. So I don't know if they were all related or not. That's something I will very much have to look into. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he himself, Rabbi Avraham Halva, was quite well traveled. I think he would go to Babel in Iraq, to Tunis, and various other places, if I'm not mistaken, and authored Minchat Abraham. Once again, that was published actually in Livorno in the year 1901, and I think he would also go to Damascus also, if I'm not mistaken. I think he would pass away in France, but I don't know if they were actually related or not, or if it's just coincidence it was the same name. His Hilul actually is going to be on Yutet Adar, which is going to be just on about 9-10 days time here from the time of recording. But we're going to explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life, Rabbi Samchon Halva, who we happen to be speaking about here today. Here he happened to be a famous rabbi in Algeria. Now, we haven't spoken about that many rabbis from Algeria here inside the series. Probably we've spoken about 30 or something, I would guess. Definitely spoken about, I have to point out, probably at least maybe 150 rabbis that were Chachamim in Morocco. That is one thing for sure. So that's very, very interesting. And yeah, very, very interesting. So it's great ways to, explore and to look over who the great rabbis were of yesteryear, especially in Morocco. Morocco had a very great, rich Jewish heritage, and also we have to point out Algeria did also. So there was some great rabbanim in both those locales. So that's very interesting. We can explore a few of the highlights from his book now to conclude. And anyone, welcome to our community. If you are new here, it's always great to see new faces, new people, and to share the great stories of our famous, precious Chachamim of yesteryear, and what a privilege it is to actually, and what a schot, what a merit it is to speak about the great rabbis of yesteryear here inside our program. And very important as we're about to go inside Shabbat, Parshat Tetzaveh. This Shabbat is going to be that Torah portion this week. Okay, so let's explore a few of the highlights. One of the teachings he says, I'm just reading over from the Haimi website over here, friends. He says, מלמד שכל מי שמלווים אותו 400 מלחמים עליו מן השמיים. This is one of the teachings over there. I think that comes from actually page number 75 in Amud Bet. Interesting, this was in the year 1904, printed in Jerusalem once again. Another teaching he would give over is in page 196, in page number 17, Amud Bet. He would teach over B'lemed, Ki hotro hit on anugim lerov simchat hamakayim dato umitzvato. That was one of the teachings. Another teaching he gives over, this is in 76, in Amud Bet. Melamed shelo yasu katani amna lefech menehem lemi shaba machutz lemidina. This was actually in 1904. And it was printed, once again, I think in Jerusalem, we have to point out. I think it says over here, Dafus Harid Frumkin. If I'm not mistaken, I would like to learn more in regards to who this printer actually happened to be, because we're also trying to investigate who were the... I think there was someone named Yisrael Dov Frumkin, if I'm not mistaken, really between 1850 to 1914, happened to have been. I think he was a famous man. He was actually a translator, if I'm not mistaken, and a journalist. And... I think he was part of the Moshab, the manager of Moshab. I'm wondering if he was very much connected to all this printing in of itself. So seemingly he was quite famous. And I think because I've come across his name before over here inside the series, so that's something that I have to point out. And so it'll be interesting to know if this happened to be I think it was actually a Chabad rabbi itself from Dubrovno, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it was connected to the Chabad Selet. So it was probably his printing press in of its own right, we have to point out. And it was very, let's just say, I think he had an organized society actually called Ezrat Nidahim, which was in honor of Sir Moses and Lady Judith Montefiore. And I think he was active in supporting the education of Yemenite Jews and in building a village for them in Silwan. If I'm not mistaken, and was author of various different books of his time. So that's just as a side point in its own right. Okay, let's explore a few more of the highlights of his book over here, friends, and which is very, very interesting. There's another teaching he says over here, we have to stress out, which actually says, Melamed, lechabet azkenim, the importance of honoring the elders. It's going to bring out fear of God. And this, I think, is featured on page number 80, Amud Aleph, if I'm not mistaken, in Tzav Letzav. Another teaching, Melamed, Kabbalah biyadenu ech yinatzel mecheret echad. It's another teaching in, once again, from the Chachma V'Da'at in Amud Resh Hey, if I'm not mistaken. This was actually printed through the printing shop of Ahavat Shalom, the great printing press in itself. Now another teaching, once again, from the Chochmat V'Da'at from Ahavat Shalom, 2003. Melamed lachuz b'chotem ha'emet v'lo litnaheg im ha'omotot b'rama'ot. It's another important teaching. Two more short, cute teachings over here. Melamed, gede hatmimut shelo litchakem לשנות שוב מנהג קדמונים. It's another teaching, I think, from Tzav Letzav in page number 97, respectively. Once again, from Rav Yisrael Frumkin, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. And the last teaching over here from Jaime website, thanks to the stating of Melamed, Shelo Yelmed Ketogaria Al Yisrael Afilu Hador Rashaim. This is actually from the Tzav Letzav in page number 77 in Amud Aleph. And it's from Rav Yisrael Frumkin also. Very, very interesting. So, yeah, friends, very interesting. We are over here exploring great rabbis of yesteryear, especially from the Sephardic countries, and we're a community here. And, yeah, a very good community that's learning, growing, and Baruch Hashem, just exploring very much the history of great rabbis of yesteryear. Very exciting. We're working on more projects, and we're recording with great rabbis also of current year at the moment. We've got a lot of great content coming up in the next week, so stay tuned and watch your space at the moment, because the content is going to be phenomenal. And also, just to point out just a few extra tidbits in regards to what's going on, what's the plans. We also do a Daf Yomi tidbit every single day, where we get a inspiration on the daily page of the Talmud. That's something, I think, a very, very important project that we're working on at the moment, something that very much I have to point out we are very proud about. We've actually recorded about 1,100 tidbits here from the daily page of Daf Yomi, which is absolutely phenomenal at the moment, and hopefully we can do more and more and more, and just grow more, and so on and so forth. That's something I would like to point out over here. We also record videos on the weekly Torah portion at the moment. To be honest with you, I believe we have we're on the middle of our fourth cycle of Parashat Shavua, weekly Torah portions in its own right, which is very good. Obviously, this week we are coming to Shabbat Parashat Tzaveh, which is dealing with, let's just say, about the different garments that the high priest and the priest actually wears in of its own right. And yeah, very, very interesting. We're doing that. Once again, we're recording with a burst of inspiration, with an inspirational Jewish personality here in modern day, also to energize our day. And thank God we've recorded with approximately about 500 people. And once again, we are recording a series now, exploring various different countries across the world of Jewish communities. And we've just recently covered Iran, and got many. We're going to go more towards European territories, I think, next, and to speak about some maybe communities that were quite, let's say, significant in Europe. That's something that we very much want to do about. But we did speak about various countries all over the different continents all across the world, and it's been highly listened to. Also, I have to point out over here. So I think I'm surprised myself about how many people at the moment. There's a vast amount of people that are actually watching and getting inspired, and so much fantastic content. That's something I have to pay testimony to over here from the people in this channel, because a lot of people over here, very, very incredible, and always with ideas, and there's no community like ours also. And one last thing just to point out, we also record tours all over Israel. We've already recorded, I believe, on this series nearly 300 tours all over fantastic Eretz Israel, which is very, very exciting. And just hopefully we're going to go from more and more and more places until the sky is the limit of where we can tour till. That's something I will very much point out over here. And so very interesting. I think on this note, we'll wish you all a Shabbat Shalom U'Vrach. And yeah, please be in touch. Also, please write a comment if you happen to be descended from any of the famous rabbis that we are speaking about here inside the series. Please don't hesitate. Write a comment over here first of all, and let me know. Send me an email, and it'll be great to hear more about the great Chacham of yesteryear. That's something that is very, very dear and very important to us. And yeah, I would really, really appreciate it. So that's something that we have to point out also. So I think it's a good point to call it tonight. And everyone watch live. There was a lot of people that watch it live tonight. Yeah, please don't hesitate to contact me. And any advice And any other informations I'll be happy to give over within regards to this specific video in of its own right. So thanks, and wishing you all a great night. Thank you.